Yes, William. Wow, this
What
is
a story. I'm just thrilled. I'm just like,
yeah,
oh my God, I want to hear the story of how breath work and breath and
mind, yeah,
mindset actually.
and how we can really take. There's a potential and the possibilities to take so much control and charge of our body and our life, and what's happening.
Yeah.
Such an amazing story.
And such a beautiful person.
Yes,
Well, thanks.
absolutely.
I appreciate that.
So, right, William, take it away.
Well,
Yeah, tell
yeah.
about tell your story
Story.
about
Well,
how it
yeah.
happened.
Thanks for the intro, and I'm really honored that you guys reached out to me after my post on the Wim Hof page. Um, but yeah, it's just a story that ties in with a lot of others, but really the story that we're talking about is some terrible burns that I sustained to myself. And that was just a few months ago now, back in August. And I went in to get things checked out. I don't know, maybe I should discuss like how it happened, or
Yeah,
If you're happy with that.
yeah, just
yeah, I'm okay with that, because I know like a lot of people ask right away. So I mean, to get it out of the way, it was an error on my part, but I've forgiven myself for it. It wasn't as stupid as I thought it was for quite some time. I was beating myself up about it, especially with a background of, being an outdoors woodsy, hunting and firearms and all that stuff since I was a little boy. To make such an error and suffer for it was something that will never happen again. But basically, trying to just maintain a burn pile, hadn't been lit for weeks, but needed a quick burn before I was heading off out to a lake, actually. And yeah, everything was going great, and I was maybe in too good of a mood and a little careless. And basically what happened was, when the torch I was using fizzled out, I hadn't started any fire. It only worked for a few seconds. We didn't realize the tank was empty, so I went and got a jerry can and have a big section that's about maybe 9 feet of clippings and twigs and piles of stuff. And there were some thistles that were just about ready to pop, and I wanted to hit those before leaving the house for the weekend. So I grabbed a jerry can and looked around for a container or cup and thought, there's no fire here. I'll go to the other end 9 feet away and start pouring the gas. Wearing shorts and sandals on a beautiful sunny day, freshly mowed lawn. It was just gorgeous. Very still day, but this gust of wind just kind of came along. I felt it pass by me, and before I could even think, it was just whoosh, just like a loud whoosh sound, and flames everywhere. Like the whole pile had caught up, but the wind had caught just the fumes from where I was pouring, ignited the fumes off of where I had been just applying some of the heat before things fizzled off. Maybe there was an ember or something, but to my mind, I didn't even burn anything really, but there was enough heat there that somehow this thing lit up. And had I poured it into a cup, it would have been tossed in the cup and jumping back with maybe some singes. But no, this time I was using the jerry can itself with the spout wide open. The spout was off, and I slammed that down into the ground because there was fire spewing from it. And I was trying to stop that from happening because, of course, my fear was the tank was just going to explode. And that's when it really kind of hit me that I've got to get this under control, like immediately. But of course, now that I've cut off the fuel that's been spewing out, I'm also still standing in fire. So when I let go of the jug, it just tipped on its side and immediately was engulfed in flames again. So I just grabbed it and I threw it over to a stone patio fire pit area that's stone, and grabbed the hose that I had always keep laying ready to go, just in case. And hid behind my deck and was hosing from about 10 feet away, focusing on that jerry can until I got all of the flames off of it. And I have pictures. You can include one of the jerry can that's a half melted thing.
Follow your story with the photos that you sent.
Yeah.
Right. So at that moment, I had already, I kind of did a roll. Knew that I had been burned, but didn't realize how severely at the time. Was kind of just hoping it was like a singeing sort of thing. But my neighbor, he heard everything happening. He heard the actual sound of that whoosh from inside his closed house. And he was just wheeling on his hose. We both hit the fire. His wife was already on the phone with the fire department. They came out, it was all put out, but of course they added another several gallons of water just to make sure. And I had already, in the meantime, they were there within about 3 minutes. Like, it all happened so quickly. And in the meantime, I ran upstairs to throw on some sweatpants because my legs were red and I was embarrassed and my hand was red. And they asked me a bunch of questions and told me I probably want to go to emergency, but judging only by what they saw on my hand, could be first, maybe second degree burn. They're probably going to want to get some cream on it or something. And, but it didn't seem that serious. And I was probably running on adrenaline a lot too. Yeah. And after they left, I had the foresight to do a quick disinfectant spray, even though the tub was fairly clean, give it a rinse, filled it up with straight cold, which in the summertime here, like 18 degrees Celsius, that's not icy cold, but it's cool. It was like a 25 plus day. And stood in that water as I could feel this cooking sensation happening. Mm-hmm. So for 12 hours, that's all I did. I would stand in the water for 10 or 15 minutes until I felt relief. And then I'd lie down and get my legs elevated. And about 10 minutes later, the cooking would come back and I'd get back into the water from 4 p.m. at night in the evening till 4 a.m. the next morning. This was my routine, all the while watching YouTube videos about burns, learning about circumference burns and checking to see if, oh my God, is it burned all the way around my leg? And so at this point, it's still really red and now it's swelling and it's bubbling up. So wherever the pictures pop up for those photos, it's just starting to, it's not getting any better looking, right? Yeah. It's just looking worse and worse. And then an area where the skin was already gone, that was where I'd hit the ground rolling. I was still in shock and hoping for the best. I wanted something for pain, but I didn't have anything at home. I don't normally, have painkillers laying around or anything. And I couldn't think of leaving the house for more than 10 minutes because I knew I'd need to be standing in the water again. So without painkillers or any of that, I reverted back to just my breathing techniques. And that's something, thankfully, I had been doing for about 6 months prior. The Wim Hof method is something that I really do want to get out to people. I've been like a salesman for Wim Hof ever since this happened. But I found some relief from the pain during the, particularly during the breath holds, and then even more during the inhalation and compression, which is something I had only just started to kind of get a grip on. I wasn't doing that in the when I first started, nor do I recommend people try and jump to that level right away. Anyway, it's just about nice, long, deep breaths and getting your nervous system calm and oxygenating the body. But the pressurization at that point was something I'd already gotten pretty good at. And I was just completely astounded that I could go from mind-boggling pain that I couldn't even describe other than bells being rung in my head, to relaxation and even pleasurable feeling.
Oh, wow.
And by pleasurable, I mean like a tingling where I would imagine the tissue trying to reconnect, rechannel, and rebuild. That was the narrative in my mind while I was feeling that relief. So I was already visualizing that type of thing. And from past experiences of visualization, but now coupled with the breathing, for whatever reason, it was working for me. And I was genuinely shocked about how I could literally like flip a switch to turn that pain off, within certain parameters.
I guess it must have given you the feeling of, I do have some control in this situation.
At that point, it really did. I was still totally terrified. This was even before I went. I called the hospital, told them what had happened. They said, well, you definitely have to come in, like I was really trying to avoid it, and hadn't even told any friends or anybody, even what had happened. Mostly because I was really embarrassed, I was like humiliated, and oh yeah, he's going to the lake. I didn't want anyone to be thinking that I had, been drinking or did something stupid, or I've been known to like to party sometimes, but no, I had mowed the lawn and I was packed and ready to go, maybe party a little bit with some friends. Social distance, of course, all outside. So I had my car set up like a camper, which came in handy because a few days later I wasn't able to walk. So the back of my car already had the bed made out from when I was going to go camping. I was still hobbling around. When I went to the hospital, I went by myself to emergency. I waited about 7 hours. I had wrapped my legs with gauze from a first aid kit. I had wrapped them in saran wrap because I was paranoid about coronavirus and exposed membranes. So I'm wearing a mask and sitting in a chair, and people in emergency who are also waiting, people who were there before me, this one woman in particular was like looking over at me, just like, you could tell that the people there wouldn't have been too upset if they called me in, because it probably didn't look too great. So it was a 6 or 7 hour ordeal where all they did was just relieve all of these giant baseball sized blisters that were sticking out of my legs. They just pierced them. And most of the time I spent laying on a stretcher in emergency, and they were busy. And again, with coronavirus, our hospitals here in Canada and right here in my city have been like overrun. They probably would have admitted me that day, but there were just no beds, and I didn't want to stay. But I did want some painkillers, and they didn't give me any because the nurse who told me she was getting them forgot and went home for the day, and then they were going to get somebody else. And at that point, it had been over 6 or 7 hours, and I said, no, thanks. Like, I'm not sticking around anymore. So I was able to walk. And the next day when I went there to the burn unit for the debridement, actually it wasn't the next day because I called and asked what debridement meant. And when they told me, I got scared. So I went in 2 days later because they told me we're basically going to have to tear off all of the necrotic flesh. So all of the skin that I was like trying to hold on to and rejuvenate, that was all coming off. So when I went there for that procedure, I explained to the nurse that I've been doing this breathing technique, and it's the only thing that seems to really where I can withstand this kind of pain. And she said, well, are you on any painkillers? And I said, no, because when I was here a couple of days ago, emergency forgot to give them to me. Oh, well, we'll get you some for sure. So I did get a prescription that day, but not before the debridement. So that was all done, sober, not on any drugs. And I got through it by doing the breathing. She would pause and I would do the breath hold, and she knew go now. So I'd do the heavy breaths. She really worked with me, even though at first she was telling me not to hold my breath. You know, they were very panicked about that because they're used to seeing people in shock and panicking and passing out, I think, you know, hyperventilating, holding their breath and just going crazy. And I assured her that's not what was going to happen. And she was shocked because I'd give her the nod, do the inhale, compress. She'd start peeling and tearing strips of skin off my legs. I could see it piling up, you know, below me, and just sat there kind of looking at everything and marveling at how like I can literally control like this pain. Wow. And so the doctor came in, we have 3 top plastic surgeons. They called on him to come in and take a look. This was again maybe 4 days after it happened, and he said, he pointed to the one patch of where I'd lost the skin right off the bat, and he pointed to that and said, like, that's not going to heal. He didn't say that's not going to heal on its own. He just said that's not going to heal. And I waited, nothing. I was getting frustrated. I said, am I going to lose my leg? And then he explained, no, but you definitely will need to get skin surgery, and it's not going to just heal on its own. You know, you need the skin grafting on this area, which was about a palm size area on my outer calf, and a couple of other areas that he said we have to monitor because they're probably going to need more than just the one spot, which of course was like, I didn't want to hear that. I mean, I kept reminding myself, at least, you know, he's saying I will walk again. Like, I'm not worrying about losing a limb or even a toe, you know, but I wasn't thrilled about getting a skin graft surgery. So we weren't doing it right away anyway, because they do have to monitor how badly it gets, because you're still burning, I guess. I don't know. I think I shut down a lot of that just by doing the cold water, but I was told that even that was a bit dicey because their concern is for bacterial infection. So what kind of water do you get? Are you on an acreage? You know, is it well water? Like, these were major concerns. And I told them, no, I even disinfected the tub. Like, I was thinking that way, you know, were you bathing? No, I'm not bathing. My whole body down into it to wash up and with wounds. It was just my leg. So, yeah, so after going home after that debridement and that conversation, I already had in my mind that I'll probably have to be getting surgery, but I'm still going to keep doing this breathing because it helps me with the pain, and who knows? At that point, I was pretty just open-minded.
Still doing the visualizations and this kind of thinking that the wound will heal, and together with the breath.
Definitely focusing on the visualization part of it was there. And I could get to that point where I could literally feel the spots that were the worst. And the breathing is something that, for me, the best word I've found to describe the high that I get, or whatever the feeling that people have used to different words to describe, it's balance. That's the only word and it doesn't do it justice, but it's the closest that I've got to it. You know, my brother and I have both been dabbling with it before my accident. And that's what we both kind of figured, you know, it's not like you're high. If you want to get things accomplished for the day, the balance that I feel from that breathing helps me to get them done. If I want to get a good night's sleep, the balance I get
Beautiful.
to get a good night's sleep. So it does depend where my intent is and what my thought process is. But it was also physically doing something. Like, physiologically, I could feel things happening in my body, because first the pain, that was the big one, that would transform into tingling, tightness. Like I even today, my breathing, I hit some good spots today. Some days I kind of go through the paces and not much. Other days I go, holy mackerel. And today was one of those days. And it's almost like the areas that your body needs attention, you're so tuned in that you'll feel that. And so for me, it was all in my legs at the time. And I had burnt my right hand quite badly as well. You can't even tell now to look at it. But this whole area here was completely
It's just
fried, and there was a big bubble here that eventually cracked and opened. And then I had all this dead skin peeling away, and you could see the brand new underneath.
yeah.
But it never hurt. So my hand I never experienced any pain in my hand. Whereas, had I just burnt my hand, like I had on a stove once a long time or before, it hurt like crazy. But I think it was because my body was focusing with something a lot more serious. They say it was about 10%. That's how they gauge it. It's like the percentage of your overall body, because your skin is an organ.
Yeah.
So 10% of your organ being destroyed like that is traumatizing to the body. And then there's been people who've had, they say like 25% and more. I mean, you could die because not because your body can't function, but because it's so traumatized trying to fix something. So, 10% was plenty enough for me. I don't need to experience anything worse than that ever. But so the story goes, the doctor says, you can't do any harm by trying to do what you're doing. It's not going to work. I've seen thousands of patients, and on the very rare occasion, maybe young children can regenerate their own skin. But when you have full 3rd degree, full thickness burns, they call it, your upper and lower epidermis, your dermis, upper and lower, are gone. And really only young children can just regenerate from that. So the second time I went, it was a different surgeon, which I appreciated, because then I could ask all the same questions to him. Do I really need this surgery? And when he went like that, this is how you're going to heal. And it's going to take months and months and months and months. And it's going to be building and building. I thought of like a drawstring on a sleeping bag, how it closes in. And that's not how I pictured it before. I pictured it coming up, ground up, like rooting, growing. No, that's not how it works now, because you're 43 years old. I mean, you're not a toddler. You're not even a teenager. Like, it's not going to heal that way. It's going to heal this way. And I said, my brother was in the room, and I said, sign me up, so they brought me an iPad and I signed off. This is for the surgery. You'll be coming in next week. Here's for blood transfusion. Sign a separate document. I said, why is that? And he said, well, it's a pretty bloody surgery. Like, there's a machine that comes and flays the skin off of my my upper left thigh. Everybody was saying, oh yeah, they're going to take it, like skin grafting. They've often taken skin from your back, your bottom. This was going to come off of my upper left thigh, like literally right above where the worst burns were. A machine does all that now. It literally strips off the layer, and then it stretches it. So it takes a smaller area, but then stretches. Then it plants it and staples it over top of the open wounds. And there was at that time 3 spots for sure that were going to get done, and maybe 1 spot on my right leg that they were still kind of unsure about. But yeah, come in next week, have your bags packed. You'll be staying for at least a couple of weeks. And the first 5 days, you cannot move your leg. And that's probably going to be the most uncomfortable part of it for you, because you have to keep it still. Otherwise, any movement, it can compromise the skin actually taking and pulling stitches or pulling staples is what it was going to be. So all of that was very unpleasant thought for me, but I did prepare myself mentally. Everything packed, and my brother took me the week later I had been doing. Now that's another thing to mention. The breathing I was doing and the visualization I was doing wasn't some arduous every day. Like it was every day, but not all day. Like I wasn't laying in bed, doing all my breathing exercises constantly. I would do it every day for at least 3 or 4 rounds, and then throughout the day, especially if it was unbearable, one round. And that's because I had already known how my body works. So I do feel blessed. I had been doing it for months prior. Even now, like if I'm gonna, go into a meeting or with someone or anything, I can do a quick round just to deal with anxiety. So when I went in there, they unwrapped everything, and they were admitting me for the surgery, and the nurse was clearly kind of shocked. And she said, "Wow, you're doing really, really good, like so good." And so thanks, and she said, "In fact, I think I need to get the surgeon to come and take a look, because we might not need to do the skin graft surgery." That was the first inkling. And I just thought, like, no way, I didn't go in there thinking I'm going to show them and I'm not going to need this surgery. This was 4 weeks after it happened. And the doctor, who was the top dog, he came out and took a look and was, "How old are you?" and stuff. I had a hat on. Usually if I don't have a hat on, you can tell I'm older, but I told him, I'm 43 years old. And he said, "Well, we're seeing you've regranulated, and there's no open wounds for us to suture over. You don't need the skin graft surgery, but you do need," there was one small spot that you'll see in a picture. Maybe you noticed that little clear piece of tape on my inside lower ankle on my left leg. It was the only spot that was still open. My biggest worry was for bacterial infection. And even the nurses were shocked, because one of them said, "Well, maybe he still wants to go under for, like, we can give like a really good cleaning, scrubbing." And I said, "No, thanks. I don't want that." I was even telling them when they were cleaning it, when I was there the previous 3 times, stop, like, don't take that. "Oh, well, it's going to come off anyway. That's going to be off in a couple of days. Don't take anything that isn't literally dangling off." I had to tell them that. And they didn't like that, because they want to get it as clean as possible. So if they don't see me for a week or even 2 or whatever, this guy goes and does, like, they don't want me to get infected. So I understand they're where they're coming from. But for me, it would have been a lot better to just be constantly monitoring it, but we just don't have a system like that. We can't care for somebody. And I said, "No, I don't want a surgery, or not a surgery. I don't want a procedure where I'm knocked unconscious to get scrubbed over again if I'm healing on my own." And they all agreed. I mean, that was just, I think, a knee-jerk reaction from one of the nurses, because she was just still like, how can he not be going in for surgery? Like, they'd been working on me a week before. So
it's kind of like the book says this should be happening. Why isn't it happening?
Yeah, that's right. It was kind of, I think, just a knee-jerk, for, if that's your job and you've been seeing it go down a certain way over and over and over again, it just didn't make sense, I don't think, to everyone there. But yeah, they didn't get too deep into the conversation with me about it. And I kind of figured out why later, talking with the original surgeon. That's one thing I wanted to get across too, is, like, I'm a huge advocate of, the medical profession. I have friends who are nurses, and a cousin and his wife who are doctors, and they do just amazing, incredible things. And they have to tell people the experiences they've seen and what will most likely happen. And they don't, to his credit, he did tell me, the guy said, "Hey, if you come back here in a couple, he even then said, if you come back here 2-3 months, you've somehow managed to heal yourself up, I'll be happy. Like he said, it's not for lack of business. He said, we've got all the beds full. Like we've got people coming in every day. So it's not like I'm trying to sell you on getting this surgery, but he said, I'm just trying to get you, you know, to a point where you will hopefully avoid like months and months of pain and potentially some scarring that might actually inhibit you, you know, in the future. Like that, like the scarring was a no questions asked. I mean, yeah, you could heal on your own, maybe over several months. You will have scarring. I mean, that was clear as day. But to come back after 1 month from when it happened and to not need the surgery, and now to be in a place, you know, for, well, what is it now?
March, so it's
7 months later, I don't even have any thick scarring.
yeah.
You know, my legs are.
So we will show the pictures because it's absolutely amazing. And
Yeah,
looking at your hand.
Or you could show your leg now for where
my
Yeah.
hand is perfect, you know. Well, we'll stick to the pictures rather than getting up for the actual YouTube thing, but then they'll see all my corona weight that I've tacked on. And injury weight, like burn weight, because that was even worse. At least with corona I could exercise more, but now I'm only just starting to, and mentally I couldn't really do much of anything. Of course I had things to deal with from my work, my previous work. I just couldn't focus my mind on anything other than my own healing. Yeah.
So how long has it been since you've been to the hospital, and what's your relationship with the doctors like now? So
the last time I was in the hospital, they were fitting me. That would have been about 2 months ago. And I didn't get a chance to see the surgeon at that point. I saw him the second time after I was released, it sounds like I got out of prison, but it felt that way. After they told me I could go home and didn't need the surgery, they did have me come back. I think it was not like a week later again. And I did see him, but it was amidst about 6 other trainees, residents, I think they call them, students. And they were all there to ask questions and look at stuff. And I didn't have the opportunity to really get into the conversation with them because I didn't want it to come off like I was being rude to him or disrespectful. He did say, wow, like I told you I'd be thrilled and you can go tell everybody that I didn't know what I was talking about. And I said, no, that was never my thought, never my intention. It wasn't to prove you wrong or to go running and telling people that doctors don't know what they're talking about. I said it shocked me as well. I thought I was going to get that surgery that day. But we just sort of chalked it up to congratulations, that's good news. We didn't really get deeper into it, which I would have liked to have. I did, of course, talk to the nurses and I explained to the physiotherapists that just the breathing alone should be something that every physiotherapist can help guide. You know, if someone goes in from an accident into emergency and they've got no thoughts on any of this stuff, just like coaching, you know, a woman through birth, you know, someone should be there to say, oh, breathe in fully and breathe out slow. Like I know they do that with people panicking, but to have a real knowledge of that, I mean, it literally was like flipping a switch for me. So I'm encouraging everyone I know to just make it a daily practice, because when stuff does happen, you've got that, you know, in your tool belt.
It's like you were already prepared. You didn't start Wim Hof on the day of burn. It was you already prepared and you knew how to work with breath. So
yes, I don't think I would have had the same results if I had just started, you know, like.
Part of the theory there is you were training yourself on how to get into a peaceful place
Yeah.
and connect with your body, connect with yourself. And then suddenly when the situations happens, you naturally go to that place straight away.
Right.
Uh,
That's right. I could get there much more quick.
Mm-hmm.
Shock and being in pain. You know, I since have had an experience where I was having a panic attack and I couldn't really get myself out of it from breathing. And that was scary too. And that was something that just happened just over a month ago. I found myself stuck in the mountains with no connectivity, no cellular service, windstorms coming in, and my car literally had like slid. I'd pulled over, and then when I got back in after I went to the bathroom, I stepped on the gas and all it did was spin and slide. And the road's right there. It wasn't a big drop off. It was just shallow. Anyway, it was a whole big story, but in my panic, I remember thinking, oh, do the breathing. And there was a point there where even that didn't help. So I think it would still help in hospital situations, because people could come and give guidance, and maybe some people could do it and some people maybe not. But
Absolutely.
I think,
Absolutely.
but the practice helped.
Yeah, if someone would be there to guide you, to help you, it will at least, even if it's in at least, I don't know, 10, 20%, 30%, release the stress and the tension and the pain. I think it's worth to.
Yeah, and it might not resonate with everyone, but it will resonate with some.
Yeah.
And if
what I really hope that comes of this is that people will see it, and they will see the pictures, and just know that everything's not written in stone. And here's a guy who, and I'm talking about Wim. I was attracted to his stuff and what he was doing 6-7 years ago, and I can't even remember how I even heard of him. And I just sort of dabbled and played around with it, but I wasn't disciplined. You do have to have some discipline. It sounds funny, 15 minutes, that's all it takes, even during my recovery. 15 minutes to a half an hour, I was bedridden. I couldn't walk for 2 weeks. And again, this was all within 1 month. It was the first 4 days I was barely making myself hobble around. Skin comes off, just a gory mess. 2 weeks, couldn't walk after that. Had no retention, no pressure holding. So if my legs dropped down below my heart, they'd start to hurt. And if I got up, it felt like I was stepping into hot lava, like the floor is lava, as soon as I got off my bed, it felt like I was knee deep in boiling lava.
Wow, what a story.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Really, really so inspiring.
Wow.
to hear your story, and once the pictures are with it too.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much. So we are really honored.
Yeah, so grateful to be able to share your story.
And as well, it
really is a hero.
Yeah, he is a hero. And thank you for sharing it with people, because it might resonate with some people, and it might bring hope to other people, that there is a hope. If even as I said, 10% of the pain can be released during the accidents or something.
Or if something isn't working in your life, if it's physically or otherwise, do a breathing, find a breathing exercise and put intention into it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just want to say, for me, I have always had a fairly open mind, and I've always questioned things and tried to look at new things to try and new things to do. And I have found nothing else that has been as effective, not just for how I handled this particular experience and physical pain, but I've suffered with anxiety, still do, depression, which at times has been worse than at other times, sometimes really bad. I've tried all sorts of different various forms of meditation. And at one point knew all the different names for all the various kinds of meditation and all that sort of thing. And it all helped. It was all leading and building up to something more. And it's also helped me realize, like, there's still more. I mean, there's still so much more that I play with within the breathing, within cold exposure and how I do that, even within visualization. But I can't be a bigger advocate to Wim Hof's technique, partially because, you know, this guy did it all for free. You know, how many half an hour long videos did I watch, things I'd click on that would have just the right title or something that, you know, it seemed to resonate. And only to find out at the end that if I sign up now, I'll get a $400 deal on what would be a $2,500 value, you know, and then we'll tell you the secret. You have to believe in a certain path or perhaps a religious or spiritual belief then you'll know the secret, then you'll find it. It's like Wim, he just came out and said, here's an actual technique that I found that does also link in with thousands of years of shamans and you know, special techniques that have always been somewhat shrouded in mystery.
And all you've got to do is breathe, mother.
Yeah, mother. Get it in you, you know?
Right.
Let's leave it there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been
such a pleasure and so much
joy,
gratitude.
yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much, and I hope that we talk more in the future as well.